For most of us, there's this dark, kind of uncomfortable truth we constantly try to avoid. Thinking is actually deeply unpleasant. We go to crazy lengths to avoid it, and because of that, our minds actively deceive us. So, we're going to shine a light into the shadowy corners of our own cognition to uncover exactly why your brain operates the way it does, and how it literally sets traps for you every single day.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. I'm going to spring an interactive trap on you right now. Imagine a toy bat and a toy ball. Together, they cost $1.10 total, but the bat costs exactly $1 more than the ball. Now, I want you to answer instantly. How much does the ball cost?
10 cents, right? If you're like thousands of college students, and honestly, countless other people tested with this exact problem, your brain just absolutely screamed 10 cents. It feels incredibly obvious. It feels perfectly right. But here's the eerie part. Almost everyone's brain jumps to this immediate, highly intuitive, and completely wrong answer. Why? Because real thinking is inherently uncomfortable, and your mind, it just took the absolute path of least resistance. The true answer is actually 5 cents. Think about it for just a second. The ball literally cannot cost 10 cents. Because if it did, the bat, costing $1 more, would be $1.10, right? That brings our total to $1.20, no good. But if the ball is 5 cents, the bat is $1.05, making our total exactly $1.10. See, any of us could have easily checked that simple math, but we don't. Our brains lazily avoid the effort required to just check the work, and man, that exposes a massive, glaring blind spot in our everyday human cognition.
All right, part 1. Meet the culprits, Gunn and Drew.
To really understand why you fell for that math trap, we've got to look at the hidden architecture of your mind. Think of your brain as being run by two totally distinct characters operating in the shadows. First up, you've got Drew. Drew is your conscious thought, the actual voice in your head right now listening to me. He can follow instructions, do complex math, catch mistakes. But Drew is incredibly slow, and frankly, he's lazy. It takes immense effort to get Drew to do much of anything. Then we have Gunn. Gunn is lightning fast, operating entirely in the shadowy background without you even noticing he's there. He's constantly processing copious amounts of sensory data, filtering out the noise, and making automatic assumptions based on your long-term memory. Basically, Gunn does all the heavy lifting before Drew even bothers to wake up.
This brilliantly illustrates just how much control Gunn actually has over your reality. Take the classic the cat illusion. You look at it and you immediately read the cat, obviously. But look closer at those letters. The H in they and the A in cat are actually the exact same symbol. You had absolutely no trouble reading it though because Gunn made a rapid, automatic assumption based on context. Gunn filled in the gaps and presented a beautifully finished reality directly to Drew. And Drew, completely unaware of the deception. It's wild, but your conscious thoughts are entirely at the mercy of Gunn's silent, behind-the-scenes editing.
Which brings us to part 2, the limits of memory.
So, you might be wondering, if Gunn is so incredibly powerful, why do we even need Drew? Well, because Drew has this tiny, super narrow spotlight of conscious working memory. For instance, if I ask you to hold 4 random digits, like 7102, in your mind and manipulate them, Drew immediately starts to struggle. Psychology tells us that Drew's working memory is only capable of holding about 4 or 5 novel things in mind at a single time. Literally, just trying to remember a slightly longer random string of numbers, say 675531, almost entirely maxes out your conscious brain's capacity. It's a massive bottleneck.
But, thankfully, we have a little hacking mechanism called chunking. If you take those raw digits, 7102, and reverse them, what do you get? 2017. Suddenly, it's no longer 4 separate, taxing pieces of data floating around. It becomes one single, cohesive concept, a recognizable year. By linking new, raw information to familiar concepts already stored in Gunn's massive long-term memory vault, we group things together into chunks. That's what learning is. Learning is essentially the process of building bigger and bigger chunks, taking the exhausting work away from Drew and automating it by passing it down into Gunn's shadowy domain.
Moving on to part 3, the physical cost of thought.
See, thinking isn't just this airy, invisible mental illusion. It is a highly physical process that takes a massive, measurable toll on your body. Researchers actually proved this using a strenuous psychological trap called the Add One task. Here's how it works. You're given 4 random digits. You have to read them out loud, wait 2 beats of a metronome, and then say each number back right on the beat, but adding 1 to each digit. So 7291 becomes 8302. Sounds doable, right? But try adding 3 instead of 1 and keeping it perfectly on rhythm. Your brain literally feels like it's redlining. It aggressively forces lazy Drew out of the shadows to hold novel information in working memory while simultaneously manipulating it.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is what happens to your physical body while you do this. When participants are just resting or chatting, which is a total stroll in the park for Drew, completely handled by Gunn, their vitals are totally normal. But the exact moment they start that add one task, physiological tells betray exactly how hard they're working. Heart rate increases, sweat production ramps up, and most incredibly, the pupils of the eyes visibly dilate and enlarge. You can literally watch a person's pupils expand as Drew exerts strenuous mental effort. Thinking is real, exhausting physical work.
And that brings us to part 4, hacking the lazy brain.
Because thinking takes this brutal physical toll, your brain evolved to be incredibly lazy, letting Gunho handle practically everything. But the real world, it weaponizes this against us. Take a look at this truly bizarre ad copy that appeared on billboards and bus shelters down in Australia for a company called Un. It read, "No hassle, just unhassle. Unbreakdance in front of your teenage son. Un makes life relaxing and unreal." I mean, what is that? There was no logo, no clear product. It completely violated every single rule of traditional advertising, which usually aims to be as clear and easy to digest as possible. So why on earth would they do this? Because the advertising industry knows your mind better than you do. Advertising is everywhere, right? And Gunn is highly skilled at automatically filtering it out. If it was a normal insurance ad, Gunn would toss it straight in the mental trash. But Gunn cannot process illogical, confusing nonsense like unbreakdance. It totally breaks his pattern matching. And when Gunn gets confused, he panics. He hands the problem straight up to conscious Drew. Drew is suddenly forced to wake up, look at the ad, and invest real effort to figure out what is going on. And here's the kicker. When Drew works hard to reach an answer, you actually remember the experience. The confusion wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate, brilliant trap.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates exactly what is happening in modern education right now. Traditional lectures are totally on the decline. Why? Because they're just too comfortable. They're like old school advertising, super easy to tune out. They present way too many novel pieces of information, exceeding Drew's capacity way before he can even build those memory chunks. So universities are getting smart. They're replacing lectures with workshops and peer instruction. These formats force students to actively answer questions and do the hard work. It is deeply uncomfortable. Students often hate it because it requires massive effort from Drew. But science tells us it is the absolute only way true learning actually happens.
Which leads into part 5, the discomfort of true expertise. This brings us to a pretty harsh, unavoidable reality. True mastery, real learning, is biologically designed to be uncomfortable. We so often look at experts, a master musician playing the harp or a pro athlete, and we think they have superhuman abilities. But what we call muscle memory literally has nothing to do with muscles. It is simply Gunn flawlessly executing the automated patterns built through Drew's past, painstaking, agonizing practice. Sure, it feels good to play familiar songs, just like it feels good to watch easy videos that give you a false sensation of understanding without actually making you learn anything. But overcoming your wiring, like moving to Australia and trying to learn that flipping a light switch down means on, or trying to ride a backwards bicycle, that takes months of battling your own automated habits. True learning demands fighting through that dark confusion.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to examine in your own life. Are you constantly relying on cognitive ease? Like, are you always driving with the GPS on, safely guided, but never actually learning the way yourself? The science of thinking shows us that your brain desperately wants to sleepwalk through life in the shadows. To truly understand the world, you have to embrace the dark discomfort of waking up, turning off the autopilot, and actually forcing yourself to think.